Welcome, everybody. We're the opening act for 2001, and we're going to talk about voices and technology and artificial intelligence, robots, and so on. But we're going to start with a little scene from a play that was written 100 years ago about robots, and it was called R.U.R. by the writer Carol Chapek. So a little, do you want to give them a little background of where we are in this before we start?
Yes, let me just, oh God, I said I would have this here.
You have it in photos.
Oh, no, I have it here.
Okay.
Oh, in photos, yes, in photos. So Laurie mentioned this play, which I had never read before, and it's called R.U.R., written, I guess, exactly 100 years ago. And it was very interesting. It's all about when the scientists basically created these robots, and for all sorts of reasons, mainly, you know, it was more efficient, it was cost efficient, and a few people were against it because they became like slaves. They were doing all the work and like, oh, we must free the robots. And of course, you know, they're like, no, they can't feel. Well, why not? And then they started making them feel just so they didn't get in trouble, and they didn't like put their hand in the, you know, grinders. It would help protect the robots. Little by little, the robots do in fact take over. They kill all the humans, all the people, but then they don't have the person to help reproduce themselves, because then that was destroyed. And then at the very, very end, there's the birth of the new robot that has a bit of a consciousness to it. Now, this is written 100 years ago. It's pretty incredible. So we were just going to read a piece of it.
You gave away the ending, but that's good.
Oh, shit.
You know,
Why did you ask me to do that?
Is that AI has been around for at least 100 years. And people have been very worried about AI and robots for at least 100 years. So here's this little scene. You're going to start, Busman.
I know. Oh, that's good. What are robots made for? For work, Miss Glory. One robot can replace 2.5 workmen. The human machine, Miss Glory, was terribly imperfect. It had to be removed sooner or later. It was too expensive. It was not effective. It was no longer had answers that requirements of modern engineering. Nature has no idea of keeping pace with modern labor. For example, from a technical point of view, the whole of childhood is sheer absurdity. So much time lost, and then again...
Oh, no. No.
Jeez.
Pardon me.
Pardon me, but kindly tell me, what is the real aim of your league, the Humanity League?
Its real purpose is to protect the robots and ensure good treatment for them.
Not a bad object either. A machine has to be treated properly. Upon my soul, I approve of that. I don't like damaged articles. Please, Miss Glory, enroll us as contributing or the foundation members of your league.
No, you don't understand me. What we really want is to liberate the robots.
How do you propose to do that?
They are to be dealt with like human beings.
I suppose they're to vote, to drink beer, to order us about?
Why shouldn't they drink beer?
Perhaps they'll even receive wages.
Of course they are.
Fancy that now. And what would they do with their wages, pray?
They would buy what they need, what pleases them.
Oh, that would be very nice, Miss Glory, only there is nothing that does please the robots. Good heavens, what are they to buy? You can feed them on pineapples, straw, whatever you like. It's all the same to them. They've no appetite at all. They're no interest in anything, Miss Glory. Why, hang it all, nobody's ever yet seen a robot smile.
Why don't you make them happier?
Oh, that wouldn't do, Miss Glory. They are only workmen.
Oh, but they're so intelligent.
Oh, confoundedly so, but they're nothing else. They're no will of their own, no passion, no soul.
No love?
Love? Rather not. Robots don't love, not even themselves.
Nor defiance?
Defiance? I don't know. Only rarely from time to time.
What?
Nothing particular. Occasionally they seem to go off their heads. Something like epilepsy, you know? It's called robot's cramp. They'll suddenly sling down everything they're holding, stand still, gnash their teeth, and then they have to go to the stamping mill. You know, a flaw in the works that has to be removed.
No, that's the soul.
Do you think that the soul first shows itself by gnashing of teeth?
Perhaps it's a sort of revolt. Perhaps it's just a sign that there's a struggle within. Oh, if you could infuse them with it.
That'll be remedied, Miss Laurie. Dr. Gall is just making some experiments. Not with regard to that, Domin. At present, I am making pain nerves.
I know there's a really good actor in there who can just say those lines. What would your response be as an actor?
Fuck you?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Except, you know what,
How about your response as a director? Because you're also a director.
No, wait. Well, you know, I have to say, about 20 years ago, or 15 to 20 years ago, I was having a conversation with George Lucas. This is a while ago. And he was so excited because he said, oh my God, it's so exciting. Like, I now, you know, when the actor wasn't looking up, I can make the actor look to the left or cry when, you know, it's fantastic. So I can make it exactly what I want. And he's saying this to me, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that sounds scary. I said, so you're gonna make my job obsolete? He's like, well, no, you know, it's just in case, and reshoot it, or like do your job in the first place and like get it in the moment. But on the other hand, what was that thing you were telling me, that program that you can say in real time, like, oh, there's a forest and you're walking down the forest? Remember you were telling me this a few weeks ago?
Yeah, there's many of these programs that change text into speech and speech into...
To make the film in real time.
Yeah, that is a frightening one. That's something they're doing in Toronto now. And that almost gave me a nervous breakdown. It's like your dreams are real and super high res. So if you say Rudy Giuliani, and before you finish Giuliani, the ex-mayor of New York is there having a martini. He's drinking a martini suddenly. What you say is what you see. It's a very, very frightening way of producing visuals. And I actually love AI. As an artist, as a writer, I've been working with it for about 5 years, started in the Machine Learning Institute in Australia. They asked me to come and they said, we have the biggest language supercomputer in the world, and you're the artist in residence, what do you want it to do? And I said, it's a supercomputer, can't it think of its own projects? Why does it need me to say, whoa, why don't we try this? I said, here's a project, let's teach the supercomputer to read the Bible. So what we did was, everyone's always banging on the Bible, saying what the Bible means, the Bible says, you know, blah, blah, blah. So we put the 3 streams of language that make up the Bible as we know it, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, and you, as the reader-creator, because as you read, you know, you're creating images of your own and adding to the book that you're reading, or you're collaborating with the author. In this sense, you collaborate with the translator as well. So if you increase the amount of Greek, was the question, would the Bible sound more rational? If you increase the amount of Hebrew, would it be more mystical? The results, a little bit, you know, not very conclusive, let's say. But anyway, what these guys did next was they put everything that I've ever written, said, or recorded, records, articles, films, books, everything, into this supercomputer, and they crossed it with the Bible. And they sent me a 9,000-page book of the Bible according to me. This was frightening. I'm telling you, you know, a lot of confidence about the creation of the world, you know, dominion of man over animals, how that works, what's going to happen at the very end, the fiery ends and revelations. And so it became a tool that I'm using now to write an opera and several other projects. And it's very flaky in certain ways, you know, like and I'm very, very aware of my hero, Noam Chomsky, of things he's written about AI from another point of view. Because I think for artists and people who work with words, it's a wonderful jump-starting tool. They also put everything that Lou Reed ever wrote, said, or recorded into this, and now I'm able to write songs with my husband. Now, I don't actually think that I'm writing songs with my dead husband. I really don't. I'm not actually crazy, just borderline crazy. Yes. But style is style, and style is real. So you can cross styles in this, and it's very interesting to do.
I think that is interesting, and I think, but but it's still your words, and you're still like directing it. But that becomes one person. When you were saying like being able to in real time make a movie, like okay, Giuliani, whoever's walking down the street, and a cat comes across. So all of a sudden you're making your own vision, but there's no DP, the cinematographer, there's no actors, there's no editors. It's one person in a room doing it, and I just think so much. It's kind of great if you're that one person, but I don't know, the part of the collaboration and this, it's there's some good and there's some bad. Like I think, like everything, there's different ways of looking at it.
I think the alarms go off when people talk about start using ChatGPT as their best friend, because it's lonely to be a person. So you have to should I leave my wife? And then you're trusting this, these are amoral programs. They're not immoral, they're amoral. And I just want to read you one thing that Noam Chomsky said about that. He said that, because when you ask any of these programs, ChatGPT or something, like a question, like a moral question, they go, I am an AI entity and I do not answer, I do not, So it's so-called responsible, but also, why is that chillingly like the rhetoric and language of modern contemporary culture, which is also like, we're not making a moral judgment here, so he says, Noam Chomsky says, note that for all the seemingly sophisticated thought and language, the moral indifference born of an unintelligence here, ChatGPT, exhibits something like the banality of evil, plagiarism, apathy, and obviation. It summarizes that the standard arguments in the literature by kind of super autocomplete, refuses to take a stand on anything, pleads not merely ignorance but lack of intelligence, and ultimately offers a just following orders defense, shifting responsibility to its creators. In short, ChatGPT and its brethren are constitutionally unable to balance creativity with constraint. They either overgenerate or undergenerate. In other words, they're saying, I can't commit to anything. I can't make a moral judgment. As people in the 21st century, we are called upon to make moral judgments, whether we like it or not. And this opting out is by AI sounds chillingly like a lot of right-wing and left-wing, both, ways of saying, I can't act on that level.
It also is maybe protecting itself from getting sued.
Well, yeah.
In a cynical way, it's like, don't do this. I'm just a machine. Don't have this sort of opinion.
Yeah, because, at least in the United States, it's a really incredibly litigious society. You can't really say anything for that reason.
Yeah.
And it's all about ka-ching, it's like production. That's why we read this thing about the robots being an answer to being able to produce, which is our motto in the 21st century. Just make more stuff. Don't pay attention to the needs of people, the needs of me, what I need. That's what's important here. So the whole it's a very wrapped up in artificial intelligence is very wrapped up in a corporate structure.
Yeah, I also think, on another hand, I was telling you about this before. I get scared that it's not like, yes, of course, like just like from the acting thing, going back to that, like it's not Yeah, I mean, I think it can, on a superficial level, yes, it can do certain things. This could be like deep acting, like in the writing. No, but I worry about how I did a movie. It wasn't a very good movie. Who knows if we'll ever see it? Probably not. But about a year ago or however long ago, and the girl who played my daughter in it was a TikTok influencer. And I kept saying, who's playing my daughter? Like, is she good? Because these are really tricky scenes. Oh, she has 16 million followers. I'm like, uh-huh. Like, can she act? Oh, yeah, she's got so many followers, which was already disturbing. Yeah, she wants to be an actress. And then, we get on the set, and, it's one of those really iffy scripts to begin with that you have to have really good acting, else this could be really shitty. But right, we're supposed to do this very intense scene where I find my dead daughter, who then turns into a spirit or something like that. And she shows up, like, first of all, she looks nothing like her TikTok page and her thing, because she looks like a normal kid, right? Like, she's got pimples, she's like, her hair's all fucked up, and she's just really cute. And then you see her on her page, and she's so zhuzhed up, she has like, she's bought a house with her OnlyFans page, right? I mean, so she looks all sexualized, and she looks just like a Kardashian cousin or something. But anyway, when it comes to the acting part, so I'm, getting myself ready. She's like, so what are we gonna do? She's lying there dead. She goes, I've got a good idea. She goes, I think when you find me, like, you should totally like go like, and I'm gonna be like, and then you're gonna like, and then I'm gonna roll around, and I'm gonna like, and like, and I'm like, wait, what? I said, listen, TikTok.
Now that's acting.
Yeah, I said, listen, TikTok, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me how to act. I was kind of being funny. She's like, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm just going to act. I'm just going to go with it. And she was so befuddled by this. And at some point, I tried to make her, like, do a scene. We were doing a scene, and she was supposed to be very upset. And she had just told me in real life, oh, my God, like, this other TikTok star, like, she like, totally, like, stole my boyfriend. And she was going on and on. I'm trying to be compassionate. I'm like, huh. And then I said, listen, why don't we, like, ground it with real feelings? She's like, what do you mean? I said, maybe think about, like, how did you feel when your boyfriend left you? And, like, you were telling me about it. She's like, oh, I was so like, oh my God. But I was like, whatever. And see, it's not the AI I'm worried about. I'm worried about the people are so desensitized that they're not going to know the difference, this other generation.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, but it is, I do feel a weird responsibility, as I was telling you before, like, with this idea of branding and sense of self, and whose story you get to tell, your own, or, like, if somebody buys you, do they buy your story? They buy the whole thing, so they kind of like can represent you. I feel when I started out in the music world, Warner Brothers, they go, okay, that's great songs. What's your we got to find an image. I was an image. Like, whoa. So I made up an image as a joke. I didn't think that was supposed to be, some version of me. And then this kind of branding became, people now actually start to believe in this image they've created, instead of like, and then they try to conform to it, just like you say. So this as humans and machines merge more and more in both directions, we're looking at some really wild consequences in terms of on every level of culture. So this film that we're going to see, Hal, is talking, well, you were noticing things about his voice, you should say.
Well, it's so ironic, because here we are talking about, like, oh no, the machines or the AI is going to take over our performance. I think, which makes Hal so incredible and scary, is he's performed by a human being, a Canadian actor, and it's performed really well. Like, if he wasn't so compassionate and human-like, I don't think it would be as effective.
I'm sorry, Dave.
I can't do that right now.
I'm sorry. He's got some feelings. This guy, he's not just going, I am programmed to abort this message. No, he's got, I'm sorry, Dave. So it's really pretty scary.
Right.
But also really, really a beautiful take on robotic voices, so.
Right, but that's like all those, these be dystopic, futuristic movies when the robots are taking over. Like, hello. But, you know, they're programmed to, like, protect us. Like, we're supposed to protect you from you, so ultimately we'll have to destroy humans and protect the planet. I mean, which is what happens in that play, which is so weird, from 100 years ago at the end.
Was 2001 50 years ago?
2001, I think, wasn't it 1968?
80, 98? Oh,
No, the play that we read.
No.
And this was
2001 was 68.
1968,
Anyone know when 2001 was?
68.
68. Okay. Half a century ago, we have the first, one of the first robot heroes in a protagonists in a film. So let's jump to the film. Unless anyone wants to say anything, we always like to see if anyone would like to say a thing or two before we watch the movie. Not much, because we want to get to see this thing that we're here to see. Anyone have a burning thing they'd like to say?
Yeah, Laurie, I'm just curious. You mentioned about the fact that the supercomputer read lots of things about Lou's life and had all of this data. What was it like then for you to speak to this version of Lou? For you, was it some kind of intrinsic spiritual kind of feeling, or were you still detached about the fact that he wasn't there?
Oh, you mean to the image machine?
Exactly.
Oh, that was horrible. I did it for 2 hours. It was. I felt a sense of panic as these images are generating, and it's just, you know, like your dreams are just how they can come and haunt you. This is haunting me, and also it's so unrealistic. I mean, like your dreams sometimes too. If you could stop yourself in the middle of a dream and kind of go, wait a second, could you just turn around, because I don't think I made a back for you. You know, just like a vision. You're just not really there. You're just a sketch, an idea. You're nothing. But because of the speed of this, this was the most sophisticated thing I've ever seen. And this would mean that a director could sit there and read the storyboard, and the film would be done in the time that the storyboard has been read. And it would look pretty good. It's really wild. I mean, films are dreams, but they when you try to make them, of course, it just takes forever to try to make it look like something. This one is, that's the first thing that, I love AI, that's the first thing that really scared me and made me really, really just anxious, you know, that I had this power to create instantaneously this world. It was, and of course, this is all about what's real and what isn't real. You know, it's like, and also what consciousness is. As when robots and humans are next door like that, we wonder, you know, who we are. I had just one short story about that. I spend a lot of time doing meditations and going to a place for like 10 days and do meditations for 8 hours. And these are the things you're supposed to imagine your mind as a clear blue sky. And thoughts are clouds, and they come in, and you're just going to, that's a cloud, you let it go. Don't attach to these ideas. There's another cloud. Many of you are, I'm sure, familiar with this type of meditation. Anyway, I'd been doing that for many hours, and I came up out of this mind state into this, what looked like a landscape of discarded thoughts. You know, it was just like a wreckage of stuff. And what happened was I couldn't remember my name. And this went on for about 15 seconds. 15 seconds is a really long time not to know your own name, you know? So at first you're like, whoa, I can't remember my name. Then it was like, this is weird. And then it became like, I wonder if I have some piece of paper with my name on it in a pocket somewhere. And, you know, like, but when you're introducing people and you can't remember their names, you're kind of go, you two should really meet, you know. You'd like each other. You know, it's obvious you can't remember their names. You're spaced out on their names. So, but when you can't remember your own name for that long,
Successful meditation.
But what it was ultimately, but what I saw then was this image of this big shabby banner with my name on it in capital letters, Laurie Anderson. I looked at it and I thought, how stupid. What does that have to do with this landscape of discarded thoughts? Nothing. You know, I mean, we're always attaching ourselves to things and thinking that they are us. when, we're just passing through, these landscapes. So anyway, that was, I did feel that was the first time that I actually made progress in terms of meditation. And the object is, of course, no self.
Also, I think about one thing that's annoying to me. I really appreciate great filmmakers or great artists because they make choices, and it's their choices I'm going to see, for better or worse, whether I agree with them or not. And, wait, are we allowed to say about the book, about how you felt?
Oh, yeah.
And so you should tell them about that, because that was who owns the image or who owns the ideas or stories. Some of them are your stories, and yet then they're out in the world for anyone to do whatever they want with, right?
Yeah.
Just to go back to how you felt about the Lou
of
on
ownership
screen.
thing. Yeah, there have been a lot of biographies written about my husband Lou Reed, and I'm a protagonist in this. So in one of the recent ones, it was full of all of these stories. I'd never talked to the writer, but it's Laurie felt this way about this and that. When Laurie's father died, I was whoa, though. Who gets to tell your story?
And because those were on the internet or some thought, maybe some talk, you said, oh yeah, I felt, they take it.
He just, you become in public domain. It's called public domain. So you tell a story, belongs to everyone. And so then I thought, okay, so when this guy sells a movie based on his book, and then I'm a character in the movie telling the stories, you've heard those stories, and then I tell those stories, and they go, that's funny, that sounds like the story in that film about Lou Reed. And I'm whoa, okay. And it's a big question in our culture, who gets to tell the story? Who gets to tell the story of the wars that are going on right now? Who gets to tell the story of your life, because ownership of stories is a big issue. And I think a lot of what's going on with AI is concerned with that idea of self and ownership and stories and production.
It's going to become nothing. I mean, in a way, if they could, if someone, at a certain point, I think actors are just going to be oh, fuck it. And they'll just license their image out. And so here for, $5, you have my image, you do whatever you want with, and the performances are no longer unique performances. This is in the worst case scenario, but it's obviously going to happen. On the worst side of it, a lot of people, like I said earlier, will not be able to make a living. Even when you go to the supermarket, there's no humans there, right? I always get scared about what's going to happen to all the people not working. They're just going to get depressed. I mean, you had the optimistic vision of oh, they'll have time to paint and write poetry, but not everyone is going to be able to do that. It's worrisome. Okay, we were not going to go there.
Is there one more burning thing? That does worry me too.
Okay.
It's true. They are taking over. They are taking over.
Sorry, this isn't a burning question, but it's sorry, I'm over here. I'm holding my hand up. Laurie, just in front of you.
There.
There you go.
Okay.
Right, I was just going to say that a lot of people ask the question whether AI is ever going to be sentient or conscious. But given the state of the world, and you've been talking about this, you were just saying it's about who tells the stories. You see the world becoming more and more polarized, people becoming very entrenched in their position and their perspective on what is right and wrong, and whose life is worth something, whose life isn't worth something. And the planet itself, who decides whether that's worth something. So my question is, do you think we might ever get to the point where AI might not consider us to be sentient?
I think that's absolutely possible. I don't think that's imminent, really, but I think a better thing to focus on at the moment is what is your sense of consciousness in your own being. What does that mean for you? Sometimes I just think I'm just a bag of repetition or just repeating things I've heard, and just some kind of machine that's very, very much like ChatGPT in certain ways. Just grind, junk in, junk out. I'm just repeating stuff. What am I really inventing, or who am I? It's a question that for all of us humans is a very big one, And you can only find that out within yourself. It's not out there. It's in here. And that is a comfort to me, to know that, you don't read about it, You already know that. If you can just have a moment, a time enough, and peace enough to find that in yourself. That's the only thing that matters. This other stuff, ChatGPT, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And, it is very polarized, it's true, and it does have to do with roboticizing the other side, I think, because at least in the United States, our Congress is dysfunctional now, and one half of the other side just doesn't even believe in the reality of the other half. They don't even think they're real. So when you make people not real, you can kill them. That's what you can do when they're no longer real. So reality, non-reality is a very is the crucial issue of our time, and we humans can still make that distinction. But let's go to the movie and see what happens in the movie, because that's a really interesting take on all of these questions.
Sure. Anyone else? Are we all good to? Wait, can I just say one more thing? Because what you were saying, it just made, when you're saying go within, because you're not just regurgitating things, you're taking it in and you're actually observing, and then you're making your own observation, right? Which is why people will go to see, a certain artist and like, oh, that's an interesting way of thinking. I never thought about that way. Or ChatGPT, or it's just gathering information from other people, or even from the acting. They're just taking snippets from different things and they're regurgitating it, but not in an original way, just in a repetition, like they're just copying what they've heard or what they've seen instead of having original thought.
Everyone is original. I mean, it's my job to make images and sounds and pictures, and I try to make them. I try to make them resonant. I'm not interested in making a new plaid, like, wow, that's a brand new thing. I'm interested in making something that people go, I know exactly what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. I thought that same thing, just a little different. And that's resonance. I don't care about like, wow, that's brand new, never heard of it before. We're like so avant-garde. And I always just think of talking, that I want to talk to the part of you that never speaks. And you know how that feels, I think that everyone who has senses and uses them is original because they're combining them in different ways. Mm-hmm. They don't have not everyone has a job of putting those together into images that then say another thing, but we are all absolute originals and just need not to be barraged by so much technology all the time so that we become robots.
Where you say feeling, that's that's the big word, right? Because it's what you feel and you make an observation or you make something that hopefully someone else will feel, right? Because if you're not feeling something and it's not genuine, I don't think it's going to touch or resonate with other people. This other stuff is just regurgitating it, and it's like, oh yeah, I've heard that. But anyway.
We could go on and on, but we're not going to.
You guys have to tell us when to stop, because we'll just start talking about like pineapples next. But I did read something the other day about that article that I think was about singularity and how it's going to happen within 3 to 10 years, that they will get consciousness and
they'll do exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, but maybe not.
Thanks.